apparent.
So just to give some context, my name is Daniel Knight. I am representing the Ministry of Information, Broadcasting, Telecommunications, and IT within the government of Antigua, and I am the director. So my presentation today will be geofencing, and this is really just one of the solutions that we have chosen to identify and to roll out as it relates to the response to this ongoing health crisis. So the presentation will pretty much give an overview or synopsis of what we have done. Just let me know if you are seeing my screen, and then I'll go into the presentation right away.
Yes, we are seeing your screen, Daniel, but the audio is sounding a bit distant.
All right, let me see if I can improve
much better.
that.
Much better.
Much better. Wonderful. So the presentation is not a long one. Just to find the presentation, I will give you a review about me. I'll go into the introduction of the concepts related to the geofencing solution that we have sought to introduce. I'll talk a bit about the ongoing health crisis. I think it's very familiar to all of us, just to localize it to Antigua and Barbuda's context, and then to describe for you the technology intervention that we have used, or at least one of them, in relation to the clean management portal, where we are able to do what is referred to as geofencing of home quarantine persons and persons who may be found in government quarantine, for example. And then, of course, the lessons learned. This is a very critical thing in relation to any sort of initiative. We have to review, monitor, observe, and try to figure out what can we do better and what are insights that we have for other persons that they can glean from. So, of course, my name, as mentioned, is Daniel Knight. I am the Director of E-Government within the Department of E-Government. That is squarely placed within the Ministry of Information, Broadcasting, Telecommunications, and Information Technology, commonly known as MIBTIT. I am from the country of Antigua and Barbuda, and I've been working with the civil service, the central government, for about 18 years, 3 of which I am now with the ministry, and I am hoping to serve them well in this capacity. So, of course, we have regional representatives here, so you would already be familiar with Antigua and Barbuda, but just in the event that there are persons who are viewing this that may not be aware where Antigua and Barbuda is, it's within the Caribbean, the archipelago, as we call it, right in the heart of the Caribbean. It's an independent Commonwealth nation with a parliamentary system and a population size of about 100,000, so not very big by some global standards. We also have our boast 365 beaches with our slogan, "The beach is just the beginning." And so as a result, the main industry is tourism. And you can see right away as we go into the presentation, how deeply impacted we have been in relation to this ongoing crisis. It stopped the movement of persons to our shores and also stopped the movement of persons from our shores. As a result of the movement, however, in the previous sort of dispensation of our existence, the first COVID case entered into Antigua and Barbuda in March of 2020. So in setting the context of the ongoing health crisis, we pretty much joined the battle in March of last year. It was then that the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and the Environment began the process in collaboration with various agencies, various ministries, and of course the Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda, to lead the battle against the disease and the variants since then. My minister, Minister Melford Nicholas, the Honorable Minister for MIBTIT, and also the president of this illustrious CTU, collaborated with the Minister of Health, the Honorable Malvin Joseph, to introduce a technology that would assist with the quarantine management and response to the health crisis. Because of course, as many of you may already identify in your own context, I think this particular battle required a lot of strategies, a lot of tactics, a lot of intervention, and a lot of investment, human, finance, and otherwise. So as part of that, technology was seen, and rightly so, as one of the great equalizers in this particular fight. So as a result, I was asked to evaluate several companies and the offerings that they would have had as to tools that we could use potentially to assist in managing this ongoing health crisis. So we settled on an offering from the Amber Technology Group, which is based in Jamaica. And we thought it necessary to partner with regional entities because, of course, as the presenter identified earlier, the more we strengthen our connections and the more we collaborate with each other, the better we will be in terms of meeting particular needs. Of note, the technology has been a key pillar in the fight against the spread of the COVID-19 virus and its variants. So I'll explain why in just a minute. So in terms of the technology intervention, this was seen as very critical, even as the borders were beginning to open back up, because this saw the return of nationals to our country, our brothers and sisters coming back home because of course, at the time, it was very much an uncertain situation and still much so the same today. Persons were very fearful, people were from their loved ones. The government intervened in order to ensure that we could have the safe return of our nationals. But we also understood that the risk associated with that is that some persons may have posed additional risk in terms of the possibility of spread and community spread by bringing or introducing the virus to our shores. We also recognized that there was a significant need to resume tourism activities because, of course, this is the lifeblood of the country. So the government settled on the use of contact tracing bracelets, which were powered by a quarantine management portal. So of note, we established a command center. So this meant that we had a number of employees that were brought on, as well as a number of organizations that we collaborated with in order to ensure that we were able to monitor persons in their home quarantine 24/7. Now, this was critical, of course, because persons were not accustomed to stay in place for a prolonged period of time. And we knew that some persons may breach the quarantine requirements and the protocols of the quarantine because of the nature of human beings. Likewise, once persons are in home quarantine or if they found themselves in government quarantine, they were fitted with contact tracing bracelets, which aided in the geofencing solution that we had identified. It was a joint operation between the MIBTIT, the MOHWE, i.e. the Ministry of Information and Ministry of Health. So within the portal, we were able to use geofences. We were also able to report temperatures. So users would report their temperatures seamlessly to the command center and to the quarantine authority at the Ministry of Health. We were able to identify alerts if there were geofence violations or if there were temperature spikes, as well as use variables to our benefit, and as well generate statistical reports. So just to give you an overview of how the geofencing works, each device will be assigned an IMEI number, which is a unique number specific to the device. So it's like an ID. So that means that it is linked specific to individual wearer. We then track the details of that individual wearer via the portal, addressing the particular demographic details such as name, address, date of birth, passport number, and of course the IMEI number in question that would have been assigned is already attached to that particular profile that we would have created and onboarded. And then of course, finally, and all of these things are linked, the geofence would be set around geographic is slated to occupy or reside. So if it's at home, then we would find the location on the map, identify, as you see illustrated in the image, a circle around the particular location, and we would size it to the location. And so if the person leaves the geofence, then an alert will automatically be sent to the command center, and then of course other protocols would ensue. So typically when setting the geofence, a number of details will be identified, and so we can then update those details as new information comes. So this is just a mock-up of exactly how it would look in terms of the portal to the user and what will then be assigned to them in relation to the information. We recognized through the technology implementation that it was not just about the technology. We had to institute collaborative technology techniques, also protocols with the contact tracing team, providing them with the data that we observed within the command center to them. There was also a special attachment of the police force for those persons who violated the geofence, and whenever the alerts were identified, we would then contact that special attachment so that they can then secure the individual, return them to their home quarantine, or in violation of particular matters, they may be sent to the government quarantine. The emergency medical team was also a part of the implementation, and they were very instrumental in terms of first responses and also augmenting the existing command center team made up of persons who are not necessarily health practitioners or officials, but were able to learn and glean in relation to the protocols to really have a strong and solid intervention. Likewise, we would have collaborated, and I wish to thank the members of the Port Health in relation to the deployment of the technology, both at the ports of entry, primarily at the airport, along with the airport authority, who really facilitated and assisted us in securing the right space and also the right processes in order to get persons outfitted with the contact tracing bracelets, and also for us to then do the geofencing that was required to help in the fight to safeguard the population. So what are some of the key lessons learned? In reality, and echoing some of the sentiments made by my colleague, hardware is just as critical as software in information system implementations. Strong infrastructure is always the key. We would have done a lot of spending, a lot of good investment into PCs at the command center, telephones, increasing and improving the bandwidth quality and the network quality, outfitting the networks and connecting them through the various switches and routing technology. We would have had the laptops and other key infrastructure, desks, sanitation, PPEs, all of those different things. We realized all come together in order to make implementation the most effective. Likewise, another lesson that cannot be overstated is the cross-agency collaboration and communication. It is paramount to the success of any solution or intervention. Likewise, in relation to that same point, we realize that we must lead with the solution and not the technology, because the technology is an enabler, an equalizer, and it really means that it can have a very far-reaching effect. But we must understand what the particular requirements are. And in this case, it would have been a health response in order to tailor and fit the specific technology solutions to meet the needs of our clients, our colleagues, and our brothers. And then, of course, finally, we learned from the experiences and we built on them. It wasn't an easy process. There were challenges in the beginning, but of course, through it all, and through the discussions and the meetings and the interventions, we were able to move forward and to have success in relation to the geofencing initiative. So I open the floor then to any questions, and I want to thank my mayor for his leadership on the matter, to the PM, the Honorable Gaston Brown, and his cabinet in relation to the leadership they have shown throughout the crisis. Of course, singling out the Honorable Malwin Joseph, the Minister of Health, as all of these individuals have charted the course forward in relation to intervening. And I thank the CTU for the opportunity to present, and I yield to you, Mr. McIntyre. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Really, again, a very exciting presentation that speaks to creativity, coming up with creative solutions and I like it, the lessons learned and the whole notion of cross-agency collaboration. And you indicated that is paramount. So a lot of thought went into it, a lot of discussions and collaboration coming up with the solution. And I think that is really excellent to note. I just have one question, Daniel. I don't know if you have any other questions from the wider panel, or even the audience as well. But my question to you, Daniel, would be, are there any opportunities to scale the geofencing technologies to support other use cases? It appears to me that there's a lot of potential to scale even beyond the current use case. So the bracelets tied into a monitoring system and all of that, and sending alerts, those are really excellent tools. I don't know if you have any suggestions or comments on that, Daniel.
Certainly, and we recognize that while we are fighting this ongoing.
Daniel, your audio is just dipping a bit. I don't know if you could. Go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me now?
A little better, yes. Yes. Go ahead, I'm hearing you.
Yes, unfortunately, the bandwidth tends to challenge us. Yes, so I was saying that the truth is, we recognize that at some point we will get to the end of this fight, and at least we are hopeful. And so we have already begun to think about how to provision for the technology and even apply it to other scenarios going forward. In similar fashion, there are so many areas that we have understood particular applicability. First of all, the command center concept is something that we would have deployed very quickly, and it's something that we will be using going forward in relation to other technology implementations, such as the deployment of CCTV cameras, surveillance networks, in relation to the Internet of Things. As we move forward on some of these concepts, we would have to have a similar approach. Likewise, in terms of network operating centers that will be monitoring activity levels, applications in terms of cyber security and cyber threats. So we see extensions in relation to that. In terms of the devices themselves, we've already identified potential links to, for example, persons with Alzheimer's, and assisting persons living locally to monitor individuals, juvenile delinquents, perhaps monitoring persons who may require to do so in specific instances, prisoners on work, outputs, and so forth. So there are a number of potential applicable scenarios that we have looked at, and we recognize that as we get to the end of this crisis, hopefully, we then will be able to use the technology in similar fashion for other applications.
Yes, that is excellent. I mean, and you can go on and on and on. I mean, the initial solution, there are so many other options and potential to scale the solution. So that's really good. And we're hearing similar trends coming out from all our presenters that, we are creating and developing indigenous solutions, but there is always scale in mind. We're thinking regional, we're thinking local, regional, and global as well, in our design and in our architecture. And those are important considerations for the wider persons listening and who may be considering developing similar solutions. And again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm sure you would probably take note of our presenters, their email addresses, and get in contact with them, have a chat, and there may be opportunities to utilize their solution in your respective domains. So that is a really excellent. Thanks a lot, Daniel. Excellent presentation.